Hi, my name is Jared Stein, and I'm the AT&T CICD engineering lead.
My name is Milan Belhay. I am a solution architect with Ericsson.
And we're going to talk to you about AT&T's CICD revolution. I titled it A Conversation. So the idea, over time, over the last couple of years, CICD has actually sort of evolved. We started with AIC verification testing, or AVT. We progressed to what we call full continuous deployment, or full CD. And we are moving towards containerized local control plane CICD. In terms of sort of scale, sort of the bulk of the effort and the actual significant amount of automation has occurred in what we call AVT. It's about 120,000 hours of automated testing that has occurred. That's across 5 different versions of AIC, and its last count was about 25,000 change sets. We use Garrett, so everything's pretty easily traceable. In terms of full CD, what we're looking at is a minimum sort of production-like lab. It takes 7 servers, and we've released 16 different RCs across that lab. And then what we're moving towards is sort of a high speed. How do we get a single feature change out to test in less than an hour? And so we're moving towards a rolling update approach, and that's where things are headed, and that's why this is the revolution. So there's a lot of words on this screen, and I think probably the biggest takeaway is sort of the volume of effort. We have broken things down in such a way that we can do both on commit and nightly jobs. Those 2 jobs are probably what most of our developers deal with on a daily basis. They're going to either be triaging issues from an overnight build, or they're going to be working on getting change sets through the commit gates. And then I guess you could probably best term it as like a get well approach. We identified a couple key areas that were kind of missing. There were gaps. So we addressed it through RBAC and complex AVT executions. And so just in aggregate, we're looking at somewhere around 97,000 hours of what we call work avoided. This is essentially automated build and deploys that nobody would have performed, but if we took all of those deployments that occurred in automation and calculated them out, they actually would have taken quite a bit of time to do manually. I think we're talking about, it feels like it's 10 years of people time. So anyways, the AIC code base has actually gone through multiple deployments before it ever gets into an actual lab. So this is actually one of the things that you don't normally want to say, hey, I avoided all this work, but this is one of those areas where you say, hey, look, we've got all this automation in place and we didn't have to do all this work. So pretty impressive.
Thanks, Jared. And one more thing I would like to mention is the AVD framework. It's basically based on, we use Fuel to deploy. So it's based on Fuel DevOps and Fuel QA. However, we still had one gap. We had a gap of we would like to deploy in the exact same way that we are deploying our production sites in our lab environment or your CI environment as well. And to fill that gap, we introduced something called a full CD. Full CD is basically a Ansible-based deployment framework. The slide also says Aqua AIC quality automation. I'll come to that later. Yeah, basically, full CD performs production-like deployments in our fully automated production-like deployments in our CI framework. I mean, the frequency at which we are running it, and we have almost, I think, we have like a 22% kind of increase or release over release. And like for example, in AIC 302 release, we were at like I think was 2%, and
it was like 2.2 days to go from what we call a stable snapshot into a release ready, what we call an RC, and that's just release candidate.
Yeah. So we have a concept of release candidate, which is basically our packaged release, which we deliver to our customers. The customers could be internal customer or an actual external customer, right? So I think it helped us gain basically those 22% savings. Going quickly to the AQA framework, again, even with all this CI automation, we thought that yes, there is also a need to execute the same test in a production environment. Same test that we are doing, we are running in CI environment to be executed in the production environment. That means you have to figure out how to package those somehow. So we packaged our Tempest test case we containerized them. We provided our downstream teams like a fully packaged Docker image. They can just deploy in their environment and run the exact same test that run in the CI environment. And so that was pretty great. It also helps in kind of our strategy of shifting testing to the left, where we are trying to shift testing as close to the development as possible to catch all the issues sooner than later, right? And basically all these tools provide value to these release. AQA its framework is portable. It is shared across Scrum teams and our platform for deployments, basically.
And Aqua is actually a pretty extensible framework. It's got both Aqua API, which is essentially Tempest tests that have been containerized. It has Aqua Resource, which are VNF enablement. So we actually take what our customers, our tenants are actually doing on the platform, and we use Shaker to execute them through a full CD deployed lab. So we're not only testing the APIs, we're actually going to the extent of getting a tenant running and deploying that inside of full CD in a mechanical fashion. Okay. And so you might wonder, what can we do? We've gone from 2.2 days down to 1.7 days from stable snapshot to RC. And the answer is we have to get faster. You know, how can you really squeeze more time out? Well, we need to just rethink everything. We need to not focus on so much of the overall, how do we get a whole release, and instead we're going to be moving towards what's called the containerized local control plane. So this is the overview of it, and I think the key takeaway here, how much time we have left? We got 3 minutes left?
Yep.
So the key takeaway is that through rolling updates that flow through the CICD pipeline, CLCP will actually speed up the ability to release features. So if you're interested in learning more about this revolution, this was selected as a lightning talk, and we clearly don't have enough time to talk about how we're actually changing everything, in terms of being open source first, in terms of actually, there's a lot more to it, but if this is interesting to you, then I recommend you come and join us. All aboard. The Ship It is actually going to be occurring in about 20 minutes upstairs in level 3. And if you're on the web, you can probably go search for Ship It. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate it. Open up the floor for any questions. That's it. So.
I would like to see, you do have some onboarding testing before you do the deployment, right?
Say that again?
After you do the deployment of OpenStack, you do have some testing, right?
Testing, yes. So we have 2 levels of testing. I
don't have that slide.
I don't have that slide on here, but if you come to Ship It, I actually have that slide. It's like the one that I'm talking to on the next meeting. But yeah, so there's 2 levels of testing. So one is during AVT, the AIC verification testing. We run both OSTF tests, which are OpenStack testing framework. It's integrated into Fuel. That tells us that OpenStack has been deployed, Fuel didn't have any deployment issues. And then we run the Aqua A, and that's going to run the Tempest sanity smoke tests. And those are run both during an AVT deployment and a full CD deployment, both OSTF and Aqua.
Yes, and our goal is going to be to extend this Aqua framework right straight to production. So once you deploy a production site, for example, you can use the same framework to verify that the site is deployed correctly.
Yeah, it's portable, right? So you can run it in our labs, you can run it in tests, you can run it in production, you can hand it off to a vendor and let them run them as well.
Currently, most of the testing are just temp tests, or you have any specific testing by AT&T that you require? There's nothing that's specifically AT&T. There's definitely the API tests from upstream. We do have RBAC, which most people will know as Patrol in the community. So that was actually something that came out of some of the work that we had done. So but in the end, from our perspective, testing, if it succeeds in the community and it kind of enhances the community, it means better. It means that's what our success factor is. There's nothing specifically testing AT&T functions.
Yeah, it is all we execute the same upstream smoke tempest test and full tempest test in our testing. There is other than RBAC, there is nothing special, and even RBAC is now in the community as Patrol.
You upstream your test cases that you write specifically?
Yeah. So just like we said, the actual bulk of it is actually coming from upstream, but then RBAC was released to the community as Patrol.
Okay.
Yeah.
So. Are you doing that directly to OpenStack, or are you doing it through OpenStack?
The Patrol test cases, that's actually test cases, it's a Patrol framework. It was part of the QA, OpenStack QA. So it's in OpenStack. Are you asking about the resource, the Aqua resource?
I was thinking more to the end-to-end type test cases that you're doing, because by just testing OpenStack actually doesn't give you really everything you need.
Yes.
You're deploying in a broader environment.
Yes, so the Aqua resource, that's probably what you're referring to, the VNF enablement that I mentioned. That's it's just using Shaker, and they're testing. I think there's actually, is there a session on it?
Tomorrow.
There's a session tomorrow. What time? 3:30? 4:30. So you can go look it up. It's called
Life or Death, AT&T's approach to VNF enablement, I believe.
that's going to talk about Aqua resource, and that.
We want to open source it.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, there you go. We are going to open source that as well.
We're out of time, so thanks everyone for attending.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for your questions. Thanks.